Welcome to this deep dive tailored just for you. We're going to be jumping into some fascinating ideas from L.P. Jacks and his work, The Alchemy of Thought.
Yeah,
And it seems like it's a topic that you've already been exploring a bit yourself.
it is.
So, we're going to be trying to understand that complex connection between thought, experience, and reality.
Right. And Jacques was a British philosopher writing in the early 20th century.
Okay.
And he had kind of a unique perspective. He
Right.
felt that just relying solely on logic and scientific observation, wasn't enough to truly understand the world and our place in it.
So he wasn't satisfied with just cold, hard facts.
Absolutely not.
There's more to life than just that.
Yeah, he believed that reducing life to just pure reason and analysis misses out on the richness and complexity of lived experience. He argues that the world speaks to us in a language that goes beyond logic and science, a language that includes our emotions and intuitions and those moments of awe and wonder that we all experience.
He even goes so far as to suggest that the universe itself is a philosopher.
It's like constantly revealing itself to us through diverse and sometimes contradictory experiences.
Yeah.
A philosopher universe. Now, that's an intriguing thought.
It is.
How do we even begin to wrap our heads around that?
Well, think of it this way. Instead of approaching the universe as like a giant puzzle to be solved,
Okay.
we should be approaching it with humility, ready to listen and learn from its many expressions.
Okay.
Imagine the universe as a wise teacher,
Right.
offering us insights through nature, art, relationships,
I like that.
and even our own internal struggles.
So instead of imposing our interpretations on the world, we should be paying attention to what it's trying to tell us.
Right.
That makes sense, but how do we actually do that? How do we learn to listen to this philosophical language of the universe?
Well, one key is to understand what Jacques calls the alchemy of thought.
Okay.
Our thoughts aren't just passive reflections of reality. They actually have the power to shape how we experience the world. Imagine our thoughts as a mental lens focusing our attention and interpretation.
Every belief, every perspective that we hold creates its own unique world.
So the same event could be perceived in completely different ways depending on the lens through which we're viewing it. That's
Yeah.
a powerful idea.
It is.
Could you give us an example of how this alchemy of thought plays out in real life?
Think about a time when you were feeling stressed or anxious.
Yeah.
Did your thoughts spiral, making the situation feel even worse?
Or
Or were you able to kind of shift your perspective, calming your mind and finding a more constructive way to handle the situation?
Right.
That's the alchemy of thought in action.
I see what you mean. The way we think about things can literally change how we experience them.
Yes.
It's not just about what's happening out there. It's about how our minds are interpreting and reacting to it.
Yeah.
But doesn't this kind of contradict the scientific view of the world?
Well,
Isn't science all about objective facts and observations?
Jacques was an anti-science, but he believed that a purely scientific worldview could be limiting. He felt that reducing everything to measurable phenomena ignored those aspects of human experience that can't be quantified. Things like beauty, love,
Okay.
and spiritual longing.
So while science can explain how a flower grows or how the brain works,
Right.
it can't fully capture the feeling of awe we get when we see a field of wildflowers.
Exactly.
Or the depth of connection we feel with another human being.
Yes, and Jacques gives a voice to this frustration
Okay.
through what he calls the plain man.
The plain man. Who's that?
So the plain man isn't a literal person,
Okay.
but it represents the everyday individual's frustration with philosophy's tendency to overcomplicate and explain away the richness of life.
Right.
Think of it as the voice inside all of us that says, wait a minute, that explanation doesn't capture the whole picture. There's more to it than that.
So the plain man is like the voice of common sense,
Yeah.
reminding us not to get lost in abstract theories
Right.
and to stay connected to our direct experience of the world.
Precisely. Jacques believed that philosophy should be relevant to the lives of everyday people, helping them to make sense of their experiences and to live more meaningful lives.
I think we can all relate to that. There are times when intellectual explanations just feel, well, flat, like they're missing the heart of the matter.
Yeah, and that's where the alchemy of thought comes in again.
Okay.
Jacques believed that we have a responsibility to cultivate our thoughts in ways that enrich our lives
Yeah.
and deepen our connection to the world around us.
That's a beautiful idea that we can actively shape our perceptions and experiences
Yeah.
through the power of thought.
Yes.
But how do we know which thoughts to cultivate?
That's a good question.
How do we avoid falling into the trap of believing things that might actually make us unhappy or disconnected from reality?
That's a great question, and that leads us to another important aspect of Jack's philosophy,
Okay.
the dangers of self-defeating theories.
Self-defeating theories. Those sound dangerous.
They can be. These are theories that, while they might seem appealing on the surface, actually have the opposite effect of what they intend.
Can you give us an example?
Sure. Let's consider hedonism, the idea that the pursuit of pleasure is the ultimate goal of life.
Sounds pretty good.
It does, right? But, as many people discover,
Yeah.
constantly chasing pleasure can actually lead to a feeling of emptiness and dissatisfaction. It's like eating too much candy.
Yeah.
Enjoyable at first, but eventually it leaves you feeling sick.
So a theory that promises happiness can actually end up making us unhappy.
It can.
I guess the key is to be mindful of the potential consequences of our beliefs, even those that seem positive at first glance. Are there other examples of these self-defeating theories?
Another common one is determinism. The idea that we have no free will
Right.
and our actions are predetermined by external forces.
Okay.
And while it might seem like a logical conclusion based on certain scientific observations,
Yeah.
believing that you have no control over your own destiny can lead to apathy and hopelessness. It saps your motivation to make positive changes in your life.
So a theory that promises freedom from responsibility can actually imprison you in a state of passivity. That's quite a paradox.
Exactly. And Jax points out another potential danger: the attempt to create a science of man.
A science of man, what does that mean?
So it refers to the idea that we can study and predict human behavior with the same precision and objectivity that we apply to the natural world.
I can see how that would be appealing.
Right.
Imagine if we could understand and control human behavior.
Yes.
Like, we understand the laws of physics,
Right.
but doesn't that raise some ethical concerns?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be dangerous to try to control and manipulate people in that way?
That's precisely what Jax was concerned about.
Okay.
He argued that human beings, unlike the objects of natural science, are self-aware.
Right.
We have the capacity to reflect on our own behavior
Yeah.
and to change it in response to how we are being studied or manipulated.
Yeah. So the very act of trying to create a science of man could actually undermine the very thing we're trying to study. That's fascinating.
It is, and it leads us to a deeper question
Okay.
that Jax grapples with throughout his work.
Okay.
Can there ever be a true understanding of human beings that doesn't involve some degree of manipulation or control?
That's a big question, and one that we'll need to explore further as we continue our deep dive. But first, I want to bring this back to you, the listener.
Yes.
Have you ever felt the frustration of Jax's plain man when confronted with these complex philosophical explanations that seem to miss the point?
Or have you ever fallen into the trap of a self-defeating theory? A belief that seemed appealing in principle, but ultimately made you feel worse.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Remember, this deep dive is all about exploring these ideas together and finding what resonates with you.
So let's continue this journey of discovery together. Where do you think we should go next?
Well, Jax uses a couple of fascinating thought experiments to illustrate the potential dangers of taking our ideas to extremes. He takes us on a journey to two very different destinations: Devil's Island and the Isles of Omniscience. Each island represents a different extreme of human thought and experience. Devil's Island is a bleak and barren place where everything has been reduced to abstract nothingness.
And the Isles of Omniscience offer the allure of perfect knowledge.
Shall we explore these metaphorical islands together? Perhaps they'll shed some light on the delicate balance we're trying to find between intellectual rigor and the richness of lived experience.
Let's start with Devil's Island. Imagine a place that's stripped of all sensory experience, where everything is reduced to cold, abstract concepts.
Oh, wow.
No colors, no sounds, no tastes, no smells.
Okay.
Just pure sterile thought.
That sounds incredibly boring.
It is.
And a little bit terrifying, to be honest.
Yeah. Jax uses Devil's Island to represent the danger of over-intellectualizing life.
Okay.
When we get so caught up in our heads, analyzing and dissecting everything,
Yeah.
we risk losing touch with the vibrant reality of lived experience. It's like trying to understand a piece of music
Okay.
by just analyzing its mathematical structure.
Right.
You might grasp the theory,
Yeah.
but you'll miss the beauty and the emotion that make it meaningful.
So it's not that thinking is bad, it's about finding a balance.
Exactly.
Right.
You need both.
Yeah.
The ability to think critically and analyze the world,
Right.
and the capacity to feel, to experience, to wonder.
Yeah.
Devil's Island
Mhm.
is a cautionary tale about What happens when we lose that balance
Okay.
and let our intellect dominate our experience?
Okay, that makes sense. But what about the other extreme, the Isles of Omniscience?
Right.
Isn't knowing everything a good thing?
On the surface, it might seem like a dream come true.
Right.
Imagine having access to all knowledge, all the answers to life's mysteries. But Jax suggests that knowing everything could actually be a curse.
Really? Why is that?
Think about it. If you already knew everything, what would be left to discover? What would be the point of exploring, experimenting, learning?
I guess you'd get bored pretty quickly.
Yeah, life would become predictable
Yeah.
and, dare I say, quite dull.
So the thrill is in the journey, not necessarily the destination.
Exactly.
The not knowing can be just as important as the knowing.
Yeah, it's in those gaps in our knowledge, those unanswered questions, that our curiosity and our imagination are ignited.
Right.
It's the mystery that keeps us engaged, keeps us striving, keeps us growing.
That reminds me of something you said earlier about the universe as philosopher.
Yeah.
If the universe is constantly revealing itself to us,
Yes.
wouldn't that imply that there will always be more to learn, more to discover?
Absolutely. Jax believed that the universe is infinitely complex and that our understanding of it will always be partial and incomplete.
Okay.
And that's okay.
Right.
It's the pursuit of understanding, the ongoing dialogue between our minds and the world around us
Yeah.
that truly enriches our lives.
So it's not about arriving at a final answer
No.
or like a complete system of knowledge.
Yep.
It's about embracing the ongoing process of learning and growing.
Yeah.
But how do we navigate between these two extremes?
Right.
Between the barrenness of Devil's Island
Yeah.
and the stagnation of the Isles of Omniscience?
That's the challenge, isn't it? And there's no simple formula or easy answer, but I think Jax offers us some valuable clues.
Okay.
He encourages us to cultivate a kind of philosophical imagination,
Okay.
a way of thinking that's open to multiple perspectives, that embraces ambiguity and complexity, that finds beauty in the unknown.
That sounds like a tall order. How do we cultivate this philosophical imagination?
Well, it starts with curiosity,
Okay.
a willingness to question our assumptions, to explore different ideas, to be open to being wrong.
Right.
It involves paying attention to our experiences,
Okay.
not just the external world, but also our inner landscape of thoughts and emotions.
Okay.
And it requires a certain humility, a recognition that we don't have all the answers,
Yeah.
and that's okay.
So it's a combination of intellectual curiosity, self-awareness,
Yes,
and humility.
precisely. And I think it also involves a sense of playfulness,
Oh, okay.
a willingness to experiment with different ideas,
Right.
to see where they lead,
Yeah.
to have fun with the process of exploration. Remember, Jax uses the word alchemy to describe this process of thought.
Right.
Alchemy implies transformation,
Yeah.
a blending of different elements to create something new and unexpected.
That's a beautiful way to think about it.
Yeah.
It's not about forcing our ideas onto the world,
Right.
but allowing them to interact with our experiences to be shaped and transformed by them.
Exactly. And in that process, we ourselves are transformed. Our perceptions shift. Our understanding deepens. And we become more attuned to the richness and complexity of the world around us.
This reminds me of something else Jax talks about, insulated philosophy.
Yes.
He imagines these different schools of thought,
Yeah.
isolated on separate islands,
Right.
cut off from each other and from the world at large.
That's right. And he uses this thought experiment to highlight the dangers of becoming too attached to any one philosophical system
Okay.
or ideology.
Okay.
When we isolate ourselves in an echo chamber of our own beliefs,
Right.
we risk becoming rigid and dogmatic,
Yeah.
unable to see the limitations of our own perspective.
It's like refusing to try new foods because you're convinced you already know what you like.
That's a great analogy.
You might be missing out on something delicious.
Exactly. Jax believed that the best way to avoid this trap
Okay.
is to engage in dialogue with different perspectives,
Right.
to be open to challenging our own assumptions, and to recognize that truth is often found in the spaces between our beliefs.
So it's not about finding the right answer,
No.
but about embracing the ongoing conversation.
Yes.
The back and forth between different ideas and experiences.
Precisely. And I think that's what makes philosophy so exciting.
Okay.
It's not a static body of knowledge,
Right.
but a dynamic process of exploration and discovery.
And it's a process that we can all participate in regardless of our background
Right.
or level of expertise.
We all have experiences, we all have thoughts,
Yeah.
and we can all contribute to this ongoing conversation about what it means to be human in the world.
Absolutely. Remember, Jax's Plain Man is a reminder that philosophy isn't just for academics and scholars, it's for everyone.
Right.
It's about asking questions,
Yeah.
challenging assumptions,
Yeah.
and seeking deeper meaning in our lives.
Exactly.
So, let's bring this back to you, the listener.
Okay.
What are some of the philosophical islands you've encountered in your own life?
Yeah. Are there any beliefs or perspectives that you hold dear
Yeah.
and you've had to let go of?
Have you ever felt the limitations of a particular way of thinking?
Or have you had an experience that challenged your assumptions and
Oh,
opened you up to new possibilities?
we'd love to hear your thoughts on this. It feels like we've covered so much ground already, but I get the sense this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to this alchemy of thought idea.
Yeah, it really is. And that's the beauty of philosophy.
Hmm.
It's a journey without a final destination.
Right.
There's always more to explore, more to
Yeah.
question, more to discover.
That's exciting and a little daunting at the same time.
Yeah.
But I think Jax offers us a helpful framework for navigating this vast landscape of ideas.
Right.
He reminds us to approach the world with a sense of wonder,
Yeah.
to be open to multiple perspectives, and to recognize that our understanding is always evolving.
It
It's
is.
not static.
Right.
He also encourages us to pay attention to those moments
Yes.
when our beliefs are challenged, when our assumptions are overturned, when we're forced to confront something that doesn't fit neatly into our existing worldview.
Those are important moments.
Because those are the moments when real growth happens, right? When we're pushed outside of our comfort zones
Yeah.
and forced to re-examine our assumptions.
Exactly. It's in those moments of disruption, those aha moments,
Right.
that the alchemy of thought truly takes place.
Yeah.
Our mental models shift.
Yeah.
Our perspectives broaden, and we catch glimpses of new possibilities.
That makes me think of a time when I had a conversation with someone whose beliefs were completely different from my own.
Yeah.
At first, I was resistant, even a little judgmental.
Uh-huh.
But as we talked, I started to see things from their perspective,
Okay.
and it shifted something within me.
It's amazing how a simple conversation can have such a profound impact, isn't it?
It is.
It reminds us that we don't exist in isolation.
Yeah.
Our thoughts and beliefs are constantly being shaped by the people and experiences we encounter.
And that brings us back to Jax's idea of the universe as philosopher.
Yeah.
If the universe is constantly revealing itself to us,
Right.
then every interaction, every experience becomes an opportunity for learning and growth.
It does.
It's like the universe is a vast library
Uh.
filled with endless books, and we're constantly discovering new shelves,
Yeah.
new authors, new genres. The key is to stay curious,
Yes.
to keep exploring, and to never stop asking questions.
Those are the key.
So, as we wrap up our deep dive into the alchemy of thought, I want to leave you, the listener, with a few questions to ponder.
Okay.
What are some of the books in the universe's library that you're drawn to? What are the questions that keep you up at night?
And how might Jax's ideas about the alchemy of thought inspire you to approach these questions with a fresh perspective, a renewed sense of wonder, and a willingness to let your mind be transformed by what you discover?
This deep dive has been a fascinating exploration of the power of thought and the ongoing quest for understanding. Thank you for joining us on this journey. We hope it sparked your curiosity and inspired you to continue exploring the vast and fascinating landscape of philosophy and the alchemy of thought within your own life.